I remember at one point it was cheaper to take my Ford Fiesta, my prescriptions, and to drive into another country and go pharmacy by pharmacy to buy my testosterone, eat some KFC, take my car and drive back to Brussels. That was actually cheaper than going to the pharmacies here. What's up guys, it's Uranus from Brussels. Welcome to another video. Everybody starting testosterone replacement therapy or thinking about it should watch this video. So I've been on hormonal replacement therapy for just about 8 years, and here are 10 things I wish somebody had told me when I started. Alright, let's settle it. Starting off with number 10, TRT is for life. You can't just hop on and hop off. Once you start treatment, it's usually a commitment that you take for the rest of your life. Once you start taking testosterone, you stop producing your own and you will need replacement therapy until your very last day among us. For me, that was never an issue because I never produced my own hormones and I should have been on treatment at the age of 15 years old instead of 25 years old. But I wish a doctor, and I saw many at the time, would have told me that I would be on injections for the rest of my life, because that's something I didn't know when I started. Number 9. When you're starting TRT, there is the so-called dialing in period, where your endocrinologist, at least if it's a good one, will prescribe you a conservative dosage of testosterone that you will be on for 6 to 8 weeks, and then he will adapt in function of your blood result and your symptom relief. After that, he might increase the dosage or decrease the dosage and test again after some time. The goal is to find a protocol and the dosage that suits you, where you are in the range and you feel good. And that dialing in period can take a couple of months, and you really have to be patient for that period. Especially if you have HCG included in your protocol, it can be a little bit trickier to be completely dialed in, and it can take some time. Which brings me to my next point. Number 8, regular blood work. So after that dialing in period of a couple of weeks or a couple of months, where you will probably have 3 or 4 different blood tests, you will still need to get regular blood work. Ideally, I would say every 6 months. You're also going to be under the supervision of an endocrinologist or a doctor for the rest of your life, and you will have to deal with pharmacies and prescription. And depending on the country you're living in, that can be a pain in the ass. Especially here in Belgium, it already happened to me a couple of times that I had to deal with shortages and so on, massive shortages, and that's why I always keep a stock of at least 6 months of TRT in my home. Number 7, I wish somebody had taken the time to explain to me what the different forms of testosterone replacement therapy are, what a half-life is, and what the different protocols are. What I mean by that is that nobody told me what a testosterone ester was, and nobody told me what a half-life is. So if you don't know what a half-life is, that's the time it takes for half of the medication to still be active in your body. So testosterone enanthate, for example, has a half-life of 4.5 days. So if you inject 100 milligrams on day 1, after 4.5 days, 50 milligrams will still be active in your body. Nobody ever told me that when I started testosterone replacement therapy. They also didn't explain me anything about the different forms or the timing of injections and so on. I had one protocol with Testosterone 250, and they told me in Belgium it's 1 injection of Testosterone 250 every 3 weeks, and I had to do my own research and switch doctors to actually learn about the different protocols and so on. So I learned that my protocol of 250 milligrams every 3 weeks was actually complete garbage, and I wish I would have known more about that before starting, because at the time I was going through medically induced puberty and my starting dosage was way too high for that. By the way, most doctors in my country don't know about all this stuff necessarily. They don't know the different forms of testosterone, the half-lives and so on. They don't know the different possibilities, and it's really hard to find a doctor that knows all about this. A lot of doctors, for example, don't know shit about HCG, or they don't know anything about aromatase inhibitors and so on. In Belgium, it's really a lottery. Number 6, and this one was a major one for me, you can actually be allergic to the carrier oil of your testosterone. That was a hard one for me to find out, because in my country, the most used form, and actually the only one available, is Testosterone 250, and it's peanut oil. And I'm actually allergic to that peanut oil, so every time I would inject in my quadriceps, I would have a lot of pain afterwards, and sometimes I had problems walking. And it turns out I was allergic to the carrier oil of that product because it's peanuts, and I had an allergic reaction every time I would inject. When I switched to testosterone enanthate with exactly the same protocol, exactly the same injections, exactly the same insulin syringes that I'm using, I never had any pain after any injection whatsoever. So it took me a while to figure that one out, and it was really important because it was all because of the peanuts, and nobody freaking told me before prescribing me that product. Number 5, TRT is not a form of birth control. Most people think that once you're on testosterone replacement therapy injections that you can't have kids anymore, and that is complete bullshit. My first endocrinologist, for example, told me, okay, you will be on testosterone replacement therapy, so you can't have kids anymore. That is complete rubbish. You know, even bodybuilders or fitness enthusiasts are on massive dosages of anabolic steroids and testosterone can have kids. So it's not a form of birth control whatsoever. And if you're on TRT, trust me, you will have to still use contraception. So from the start, I was misinformed by my first endo. Number 4, I didn't know anything about the correct needle sizes for testosterone replacement therapy. So I just went to the pharmacy here in Belgium with my prescription, and I asked for my testosterone and the correct needles, and she gave me needles which are actually called harpoons now. They were way too large. She told me that's what we use here for testosterone replacement therapy, and trust me, my ass cheeks, they still remember. You can really hurt yourself, it's not necessary, and you will create more scar tissue than really necessary. These days I only use insulin needles. I've never had a problem with it. There's no dead space, you don't lose anything. It takes a little bit more time to draw the oil, but trust me, the injection is completely painless, they're easier to use, and you don't need to stab yourself anymore. Number 3, when I started testosterone replacement therapy, nobody explained me anything about potential side effects or about especially potential androgenic side effects like deepening of the voice, oily skin, acne, hair on the back and shoulders, hair loss of the scalp. Actually, basically nobody told me anything when I started, and I have never had any testosterone in my body at that point yet at 25, but nobody told me anything. So I was 25, I still needed to go through puberty, and it would have been nice if my doctor would actually have warned me about what was about to happen with my body and the necessary hormones. My voice, for example, completely cracked after 3 days of being on testosterone after my first shot. It would have been really nice to know that that was possible before, but nobody informed me of anything. Number 2, nobody warned me about the potential cost of testosterone replacement therapy. So first of all, you have to pay your endocrinologist. Here in Belgium, an endocrinologist can be an easy €200 per consultation, and almost none of that will get covered by your insurance, so it's coming out of your own pocket. Then there's the blood work. I have regularly paid up to €500 for a full blood work and pee analysis. Then there's the treatment itself. I have paid up to €30 for one ampoule of 250 milligrams of testosterone enanthate in Belgium pharmacies. I remember at one point it was cheaper to take my Ford Fiesta, my prescriptions, and to drive into another country and go pharmacy by pharmacy to buy my testosterone, eat some KFC, take my car and drive back to Brussels. That was actually cheaper than going to the pharmacies here. But nobody told me this before I started. It can get even more expensive if you're on HCG, or even worse if you're on human growth hormone. That shit's really expensive. Last but not least, number 1, and this one is really important for me. The most important part of testosterone replacement therapy is actually not the testosterone levels itself, it's actually estrogen management. Nobody told me that estrogen is actually relevant for us men when I started out, and it wasn't even included in my own blood work. It's one of the most important part of HRT. Testosterone converts to estrogen, and we men need some part of that estrogen for functions like libido, your hairs, your bones, your energy, your well-being, and so on. But if you have too much of that, that can cause a lot of side effects, and if you have too little, because for example you're on an aromatase inhibitor and you crash your estrogen, you're going to feel like shit too. So the estrogen management is actually the most important part and the most difficult part to get dialed in of TRT. So that was it, guys. If you're thinking about starting testosterone replacement therapy, be sure to check out this list and do your own research. Ending it here. Leave me a comment to support my channel, subscribe if you like my videos, catch you on the next one. Uranus out.